The Grand Hall of the Lincoln Arts Center glittered with chandeliers as New York's wealthy elite gathered for a charity concert. It was supposed to be an evening of glamour, prestige, and high art. Among the tuxedos and evening gowns stood a 16-year-old boy named David Carter, clutching his white cane. He wasn't supposed to be there. His public school music teacher had fought hard to get him a pair of tickets. To everyone else in that hall, David was just an outsider, a blind kid from the wrong neighborhood. At the center of attention was Victor Sterling, the celebrated pianist, a man the press called the last great interpreter of the Romantic era. To him, David's presence was little more than a mistake, proof that these new inclusion programs were lowering the standard of culture. When Victor spotted the boy, he smirked and said loud enough for the crowd to hear, "Hey kid, how about you play something for us? I bet you know Happy Birthday." Laughter rippled through the room. David stood still, gripping his cane tighter. What no one in that hall knew was that David had been practicing 8 hours a day on a second-hand keyboard in the basement of his church. No one knew that since losing his sight in a tragic accident at age 8, he had poured every ounce of pain into music. And certainly, no one imagined that this quiet boy was about to change the course of the evening forever. "Actually," David said calmly, "I prefer Bach." The room went silent. Even Victor blinked in surprise. "Bach?" Victor laughed. "And what piece could you possibly play?" "Partita in C minor," David answered without hesitation. Then, with a subtle smile, he added, "But maybe that's too advanced for this audience." A wave of gasps moved through the crowd. Victor's polished smile froze. For him, the partita wasn't just difficult. It was a battlefield even seasoned pianists struggled with. The audience leaned in. For the first time all night, they weren't sure whether they were about to see a comedy of errors or something extraordinary. "Very well," Victor sneered, sitting down at the Steinway. "Let me show you how it's supposed to sound." He began to play with his usual brilliance. Every note was precise, every passage technically perfect. The audience applauded politely. When he finished, he gestured to David with exaggerated politeness. "Your turn, prodigy." David walked slowly to the bench, placed his cane beside it, and whispered, "The difference, Mr. Sterling, is that you played the notes. I'm going to play the grief behind them." And with that, he began. The first notes floated through the hall like whispers from another world. The same music Sterling had just played, but different, deeper, rawer. Each phrase carried a weight the audience could feel in their chest. People who had come to display diamonds and sip champagne found themselves wiping away tears. David wasn't just playing Bach, he was channeling his own story. The denial, the anger, the loss, the acceptance. Every movement of the partita became a mirror of his own life. Victor Sterling stood frozen, realizing his entire reputation was unraveling before his eyes. By the time David finished, the silence was sacred. Then the room erupted in a standing ovation that shook the chandeliers. That night, a boy who had been mocked as a diversity project revealed himself as a once-in-a-generation genius. And a man who built his career on arrogance was humbled before the very people he wanted to impress. Months later, David Carter walked the halls of Juilliard on a full scholarship. The same people who had once dismissed him now funded programs to discover other hidden talents in forgotten neighborhoods. And Victor Sterling? His contracts evaporated. His reputation never recovered. Critics wrote that while he played music correctly, he never truly made people feel it. David, meanwhile, filled Carnegie Hall. And as he ended one of his most powerful performances, he leaned into the microphone and said, "Music belongs to no one. It exists to connect human hearts, no matter who we are or where we come from. That is the true democracy of art." The ovation lasted 15 minutes. And this, my friends, is why we tell stories. Because every time arrogance tries to silence talent, truth finds a way to rise. If you felt this story, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Tales in Black for more stories of resilience, justice, and triumph.